Greg, good afternoon. That's right. We believe that some of the last remaining protesters from the House of Representatives will be coming out behind me quite soon. There's some media gathered down there as well as parliamentary security. We believe that the last of those protesters has just a short time ago had their hands removed from a railing, we believe, there in the House. So when we see those pictures, we'll bring them to you. But some fairly extraordinary scenes below earlier where we saw plenty of chanting as well as protesters down there. Dozens of them now. Most of them have cleared down from there now. That's level one. That's a public area here at Parliament, and they've been filing out via various exits and giving their views to camera operators around the building. But for now, you'll hear some bells behind me, and those are the green lights of the House of Representatives flashing. So it sounds like that suspension in the House, the suspension of question time, those extraordinary scenes earlier have been cleared, and we will resume for question time. How that happens, how the Prime Minister and the Speaker address that, we'll have to wait and see. But from here, for the moment, it's a bit of a waiting game as we wait for those remaining protesters to come out that exit, if indeed that's where they come from.
All right, Dan Conifer for that update. Thank you. And apologies for the long delay. We're using whatever technology we can muster in unfolding events here, and that does necessitate quite a buffer between our talking to Dan and him actually returning to us. So apologies for that. Matt Doran still with us here in our Parliament House studio and checking all the feeds coming from our reporters. The latest, Matt?
We do understand that, and we have heard from Dan just then with the bells ringing, the last of these protesters have been removed from the public gallery. To give you a bit of a sense as to where these people were, we are seeing a few more pictures from inside the area. They were sitting in the public gallery up behind the opposition benches. So the last one being pulled out there. We understand security are now going through and cleaning, trying to clean some of that handrail to get the residual glue and all of that off there. But the last person, not exactly the willing person to be dragged out of this chamber. I've seen a few people describing this as being given the atomic wedgie treatment carried by the seat of his pants as he went limp and allowed the parliamentary security to do all of the work for him. But interesting to note, this also does come after there was a lot of talk yesterday about improving security at Parliament House. That was, of course, more aimed at the sort of terror risk and shutting off access to those green sloping lawns that cover the roof of Parliament House. Some people, a few MPs saying that this is, again, a reason why we need to look at greater security for Parliament House. Not sure if that would have ever stopped these people getting into the chamber. I think that might be a bit of a long bow.
Yeah, that's the difficult thing, isn't it? Where the limits on your freedoms in a democracy begin and end. What is a legitimate security risk that would seek to cause harm to people or the building is sometimes different to those who seek, however disruptively, to make a political point in what is the home of democracy and an intensely political building by its very nature. So that it's more in this latter category that we're watching things today. How you could ever devise a security system which would vet these members of the public who happen to be protesters out at the front door of Parliament House is not entirely clear to me after a few years having watched the operations of this building. I think it's always going to be a persistent challenge, isn't it, Matthew Doran? Just trying to be vigilant as to potential protests, but not unilaterally blocking access to people who have a right to be here.
Particularly because Parliament is that great democratic institution. You do need to let people in to see what's going on. They can't just, or they would very rarely be sitting at home watching the live feeds on the Parliament House website, however handy that service is. A lot of people, a lot of school groups and the like get brought here to see exactly how their Commonwealth is being run by the elected representatives. So it is a very important place to allow the public into.
All right, well, we're seeing some action on the floor of the House of Representatives chamber. As Dan Conifer told us a few moments ago, the bells started ringing here at about 2:33, which would indicate to me, or 2:34 I think it was, which would indicate that they're about to stop. In fact, the bells have stopped ringing, and you can see now that the Speaker, Tony Smith, is in the chair and ready to resume proceedings.